Hey guys, this is Thomas over here at NurseMoneyTalk.com, and in this video, what I want to do is I want to talk about the 10 things I wish I knew before becoming a nurse. Now, before I get to that though, I want to go ahead and invite you, if you're not already subscribed, to go ahead and hit that subscribe button on this channel. Talk about all things related to nursing student, and nurse life. And also, if you find this video helpful, would really appreciate, of course, the thumbs up. Now, let's go ahead and get started with the first thing that I wish I knew before I became a nurse, which is that as a nurse, not only do you have to do your job, you pretty much also have to get other people to do their jobs as well. This is like specifically like other members of the multidisciplinary team, whether that be the doctors, the pharmacists, this patient needs X, Y, and Z. Can you please put in the order? I called you, however long ago. Can you please put in the order? I can't get this patient discharged. Can you put in the order? I can't do X, Y, and Z. Can you please verify this medication? Whether it's like lab, and it doesn't actually just stop with like the other members of multidisciplinary teams. Sometimes it could go as far as like the patient family, or also the patient themselves, in terms of a patient that you keep educating, they should do X, Y, and Z, but they won't do that. Now, it kind of is what it is, and I think a lot of what comes in, it's kind of like the territory when it comes to nursing, because as a nurse, one of the things that we are is patient advocates. It's our jobs to advocate for the patient. It's our jobs to advocate for the patient's well-being, and then it's typically what's going to end up happening. The second thing that I wish I knew before becoming a nurse is just how physically demanding this job is. My goodness. It's funny because a lot of older nurses, so this is like nurses who have been working for like 20 plus years or something like that. I mean, it's one of the hallmarks of what I feel like or like very like tenured nurses is like issues with their back, and probably like feet problems from standing all day. I mean, just the amount of physical labor, I feel like would surprise most people. It sure the heck surprised me, especially when it comes to like just the very basic things that you do on a regular basis on like a med surg or ICU floor, which is just turning patients, which doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal when the patient is like morbidly obese and 400 plus pounds. Getting a patient up to bed, up to the restroom or whatever. Now, you're gonna make the argument of, well, hospitals are no lift facilities and they have lifts, to which I say, let's, ask an experienced nurse how that typically pans out in real life. It doesn't quite pan out that way. The third thing I wish I knew before becoming a nurse is just how dangerous nursing actually is. Now, I touched a little bit about, how physically demanding the job is, and that's true. That's also part of the dangers of nursing. But on this aspect, I'm talking about just like literally how dangerous the job is in terms of physical harms. Like, look at some of these news reports of what goes on in ERs in terms of people getting hit, shot, whatever the case may be. It's dangerous. Like when I worked in the in mental health nursing, I mean, the amount of physical harms. I mean, you had like patients attacking staff. I mean, and I'm talking about like legit staff. We had a staff member that was just like, it was like right at the side of the head. I mean, some of it was really, really bad. So, I mean, now of course there are certain areas of nursing where it's less dangerous, but that is something that I really wish I knew in terms of these like inpatient nursing. The fourth thing I wish I knew before becoming a nurse was really how much I was gonna become a nurse for like my friends and family members. Now, it's one of those things that just kind of comes with the territory. When When people know that you're a nurse, especially when close friends or family members know that you're a nurse, you're probably gonna get a lot of questions being asked to you. Things that are just like off the wall questions that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But they're gonna be coming and seeking for your medical advice on that. Now, I don't think I made a video on this, but I did have an article on this on why I think it's a bad idea to be giving advice, medical advice to friends and family. So definitely check that out. You'll see it in the descriptions below. The fifth thing I wish I knew before becoming a nurse was that, especially as a new nurse, was that contrary to everything that's been said, there are day shift positions available out there. And as a new nurse, you can find those positions. Now, you might have to make some sacrifices for those positions, but they are out there. I bring this up because I worked night shift for several years. That's typically the thing that they'll say for new nurses, that you're gonna have to pay your dues on night shift. I hated night shift. Those were some of the worst times for me as a nurse. I can't sleep, yada yada. So if you are anything like me and you're on the track or the road to become a nurse, just understand that you do have opportunities out there for day shift as a new nurse. The next thing I wish I knew before becoming a nurse was really just how hard it is to see people struggle, to see people suffer, to see people in pain. And honestly, some of that, like when you see it over and over and over again, some of that can really wear on you. It can wear on you definitely emotionally. It can go as bad as being like taking a physical toll on you, especially when you hear some of just these, like awful stories that have happened to get people to where they are at, especially when it involves kids. That's really heartbreaking, because I think like as adults, we can kind of rationalize or emotionally like accept that, okay, something negative happened to an adult. But it's really, really hard, I think, to emotionally wrap ourselves around that something bad happened to a kid, especially when it is because of the very people who are supposed to love and take care of that kid. Next thing that I really, really wish that I knew before becoming a nurse was just how much of a real thing workplace bullying really is. If you've heard the slogan, nurses eat their young, yep, that's a real thing. And honestly, a lot of doctors are not very pleasant and give little to no grace, especially when it comes to new nurses who, I mean, they're just learning. I mean, so for instance, like I understand that nobody likes getting called at night and getting woken up, but I mean, it is your job to accept those phone calls, and especially in scenarios where it's a new nurse. I mean, I've seen new nurses just get shredded by a physician on a call, and when it's like something that you can understand that, okay, this is a new staff member, they're still learning, they don't know. So that's always going to be hard. I would just like encourage you to really understand what your workplace policy is in terms of like bullying and staff abuse and all that other stuff, and just kind of make sure you know what that is, and anything that's rampant, like you really need to consider kind of taking that up the chain of command, that or finding a new place of employment if it gets really bad. The next thing is I wish I knew that the nursing schedule, which sounds really, really great on paper, and honestly, it is still my preferred schedule, but it is harder than it seems. I mean, working three shifts, so it's typically like 3 shifts one week, 3 or 4 shifts the next week or something like that, just to get, close to your 80 hours or whatever in a 2-week period. But all that sounds fine and dandy on paper, because you'll think, oh, I have several days off, man, I'll be good. That is true, you'll have several days off, but dude, you got like long days ahead of you before you get to those several days off, and it can suck, especially if you're having a bad shift. It can really suck. I mean, time can crawl once 3, 4, 5 o'clock rolls through, and you're seeing a lot of the admin people kind of, leaving, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, crap, I still got 4 more hours here. So that can be definitely a difficult thing to stomach. Next thing I wish I knew is just how many options nurses really have outside bedside nursing. Like, what are the options there? And honestly, there's actually a fair bit of options there. There's a lot of versatility there, in terms of even what areas, what specialties, inpatient, outpatients. Shoot, I did inpatient for several years. Now I'm doing primarily outpatient procedural. So for the most part, you come in, I'll be your nurse for a couple of hours, and then you'll be discharged and going home. And so there's a lot of options there. So I would encourage you, like, if you are kind of curious, what are the options there? So just go to NurseMoneyTalk.com/jobs. And just kind of look around, non-bedside, just kind of search, like non-bedside nursing, like different kind of keywords like that. And you'll be surprised just how many options will actually show up for you. The last, and definitely not the least, of one of the things that I really wish I knew before becoming a nurse is grasping this simple concept that healthcare is a business. It is a business. The hospital, regardless of whether it's, they claim to be for-profit, non-profit, whatever. To me, a lot of that is just kind of like accounting and tax mumbo jumbo anyway, but it is a business, and they are going to treat it accordingly. And you'll see things that will honestly break your heart whenever that happens, and you see, like, insurance dictating treatment on a patient that this is the best treatment for the patient is A, but insurance doesn't want to cover A, they want to cover B. Or just kind of like some of the other things your facility is gonna do as well. The couple advice I will give you on this real quick before I let you go is that one, you need to show up and be in the business of just providing exceptional care, doing the best that you possibly could whenever you clock in. But secondly is you also need to remember that healthcare is a business, and you need to treat it as such, which means you also need to also look at what's in your best interest, your own self-care, because it being a business, the facility will look after their best interest. So you need to also make sure that you are also looking after your best interest as well. Like I said, while still providing exceptional care while you're there. But yeah, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you very soon in that next video.